players can move on. Let's find out who it is. In the top right-hand corner, spawning is the blue Protoss player, representing Axiom Gaming, who I know have an absolutely huge following and a lot of people probably waking up early in the States to watch this match. Guys, give it up for CranK. And we've inherited some CranK fans in the audience as well, but he's going to be facing off against a pretty difficult opponent, the Korean Terran player in the bottom left-hand corner, choosing to go pink for this particular match. Guys, representing Western Wolves, we have Sting.
And I know we've not been doing this enough. We need to show support to these players, you guys as well. They're on Twitter. Go and follow them. CranK, playing for Team Axiom, is
AX CranK.
Yeah, at AX CranK. Sting is at WW Sting, WW standing for Western Wolves. Go follow them, show them some support, send them some tweets, send them some hearts and love. Really nice guys and good players. And on this first map on Daybreak, what do you think we should be seeing? Jorosar, out of CranK, I've mentioned we see a lot of aggressive play out of him. Sting plays very aggressive as well. We might see both players clashing and taking apart the entire map with them.
Well, the one thing I would say actually is that, remember how we were talking yesterday morning about how usually if there's one map where people, like for example Terrans go command center first or stuff like that and they plan it out based on a map, Daybreak seems to be that map. It's also because it's older and more established as well, so that's exactly what we're going to see out of Sting here. He's not going for too much of an early game aggression, and it looks like as well we actually have double gas coming down for CranK here.
What does that tell you, the double gas?
Well, he's definitely not going to be going for a very quick Nexus, that's for sure. This is going to be very interesting indeed. CranK also immediately spots that Sting has put down the command center very, very quick on the reaction time from Sting as well to get that second SCV down. He basically lost 0 time.
And Sting, he hasn't scouted yet. Seeing the double gas of CranK, the first thing that pops into my head is Oracle, but right now CranK, he's seen the command center first. And if you go Oracle and you give your opponent enough time to get turrets, you're going to be in a very bad position.
Yes, 0 workers, so he's going for the Nexus anyway.
Exactly, yeah. He's going to go for the Nexus. Behind this, he can choose with how many probes he mines his gas. He's going to go for the quick cybernetics core behind this, I'm pretty sure. And Sting, he's thrown down his first 2 barracks, but surprisingly, he hasn't made anyone by the ramp. So he's feeling very safe and confident in this game so far. I mean, in a sense that he's not even making the command center up in his main or anything. He's made it down the ramp. He's making the barracks next to his first command center. And one of the players has a small issue. I think they're about to go.
Yep. I think there was an issue where I think every so often like a sound is repeating itself or something like that. I know we had that problem at the Intel Extreme Masters. Maybe it's something completely different, but Sting saying that it's now resolved and that the players are now going back. So as soon as that command center was scouted, CranK going, well, I was going to go and mine some gas, but actually now in response to this, I'm going to get my Nexus. So good on-the-fly thinking there from CranK. He, of course, is going to be, I think he's mining off one of his gases at the moment, yes, and now he's going to start saturating the second one.
He wants to make sure he has 16 probe on the minerals in his main, so he did three workers on his first gas, and now he's going to make sure he always has at least 16, so now he's at 15 because he was making a pylon, but yeah, going to be 16 as soon as this is done. And Stargate, Robo, he can choose from there, but he's facing a very quick command center. This might affect his choice. He might go for actually some pretty passive play with maybe a Robo and 2 more gates. Anything's possible out of CranK really.
Yeah, we already see, of course, that CranK has adjusted his play once this game in response to that fast expansion out of Sting. So it's entirely possible he may choose to adjust his tech accordingly. The Mothership Core is now complete inside the main base, and we're going for a very, very fast Twilight Council from CranK.
Yeah, and when I saw the very quick Mothership Core, I was thinking maybe he wants to take a quick third. Because if you take a quick third, you need to get a Mothership Core very quickly for photon overcharge, having it charging up on energy. You can use some tie warp if you have to as well. But now he's going for the Twilight Council. This doesn't mean he will not go for a quick third. And look at Sting's SCV on Crank's third. He's going to stay there. He wants to make sure there is no third. And that's the most important information, apart from knowing what tech CranK is going for, that Sting needs to know about. He needs to make sure there is no third. One very smart thing could do would be an eBay block on the third and then send the SCV in the main to spot the Twilight Council. But there is a Stalker ready to prevent that from happening at the ramp of CranK. We're going to see a couple gates being added on, and the Dark Shrine has already
And the Mothership Core was spotted at the Watchtower, so that means by the time CranK got into the main base of Sting, the Marines were in position to potentially flank it, and this Mothership Core is being caught completely offside right now. He has to try and waddle back home. It looks like the Marines are going back to the Watchtower, so he will be able to, but he lost all of his shields and basically did no damage there, and we're going straight into the Dark Shrine. This is going to be entertaining.
The Mothership Core being hunted down. Where is your metaphor of the grandma with the cane here?
Hunted. Grandma being hunted down? That sounds pretty harsh, man.
Yes, well, your words.
And the Marines now moving out across the middle of the map for Sting. He is going to that southern location just in case the Mothership Core is hiding there. He'll also be able to loop around and go to the third, but this probe is going to spot that these units moving out towards his base. Spots at least 5 Marines there. There are another 5 in reserve, so he's going to be heading out. He knows the third base isn't down because that SCV was there, you mentioned earlier, Todd. He's just going to take the Watchtower and see if there's any open possibility for damage.
And CranK was able to spot those Marines headed for his base. He has a photon overcharge ready. He's mining a lot of gas, actually. He's saturated both of the gases at his expansion. He has no proxy pylon. He's proxying one at 12 o'clock finally. And his Dark Shrine is already finished, so not the best timing here.
Yeah, I think, is he going to use the War Prism for this? But the problem is the Marines are popping into his base. Now, Photon Overcharge immediately getting put down on that Nexus, knowing that he'll need that extra firepower to dissuade Sting from coming in, and Sting indeed does head home. Meanwhile, back at home, he's got Stim approximately a third of the way done, timed out as well with a 1-1. So he might potentially want to go for a Stim 1-1 timing if he thinks that such a timing exists, putting the factory down now as well to get those medevacts out as soon as possible. And the War Prism is now lurking with intent over by the third base. 2 Dark Templar coming in.
And Sting has delayed his medevac tech so much. He's made a lot of bio. He cannot attack right now because of Photon Overcharge, but he might choose to attack as soon as this first Photon Overcharge ends. We have DT moving into his expansion and his main right now.
One DT going into the expansion. Is the depot going to lift in the main? No, Sting didn't react in time for that right now. And we have another engagement going on at the natural expansion. The Marines going to try and pick, they will take the pylon down at the natural. CranK is in a little bit of trouble here with supply block momentarily trying to warp in more units to deal with this. The DTs in the meantime are going to town, and both bases, a turret's finally going to get up in the main base. How many workers have been killed so far? 13 by CranK, but he's having a difficult time defending against the DTs. Taken out with a scan, 2 sentries and a stalker left against 3, and with the Photon Overcharge, he will be able to clean it up.
Wow,
that's what he needed.
I really thought this was going to go worse for Sting here, but he's able to survive with 35 SCVs, still losing a couple at his expansion. There is a DT here, killing SCVs left and right. SCV is actually trying to fight a DT head-on. That's not going to be a very fair fight. This DT up to 17 kills in total. Another Dark Templar being warped in the main of Sting here. There is a War Prism in position here, ready to warp. It's actually out of the range of the turret right now, trying to snipe some depots, maybe some add-ons as well. And CranK is going to go for the third. Behind this, he's thrown down 2 forges, and I wouldn't be surprised if he adds on a couple extra gates. He's going for the Robo Bay as well here, actually.
Yeah. Oh, and he's trying to pick apart the engineering bay, but he falls just within range of that turret. The DT does get picked off. Number of workers killed in this game so far, guys, is 20 for CranK to the 6 of Sting. Well held there by CranK at his natural while that DT harassment was going on. He's going to be transitioning into that robotics bay, which is currently about halfway done.
What is going on in Sting's natural? We have an armory being made in the middle of the mineral line. It's actually quite blocking his mule and his SCV a bit. I think he wants to go for a 2-2 here, but maybe he's falling apart a little bit.
Yeah, very weird.
He was under a lot of pressure here a second ago, and when you try, you get stressed. You know, when you try to come back in a game, you get stressed when you know you're behind, and you might misclick a few times, and this might be one of those misclicks that in the end will make him lose a lot of minerals here.
Yeah, he just could just simply be a situation where he went, oh, I don't need to remember my armory timing while I'm dealing with all this. I'll just put it down. He just clicked the location on the map, and when he went back to look at it, he's like, oh, that's where I build it? Okay, then. And you're right, it's going to cost him a couple of minerals. He's now swapping the starport and the factory around, and he's going to start his medevac production now at the 12-minute mark.
What happened to the third of CranK? I think he cancelled it. I think he realized that he did a lot of damage to the economy of Sting, and now he needs to stay on 2 bases, because most likely Sting might pull a CV. We've seen him do that before and try to end the game. So CranK, he realizes that he's ahead economically, and it will be very risky for him to take a quick third. So he's added on a lot of gates. He's getting Colossi. He's playing it very safe. He's going to get a lot of army before he finally takes a third. He proxies a pylon on Sting's third. He's going to give him vision as well, and he will be in the know whether or not Sting is trying to take a third. Sting is going for 2-2 right now, so he's going to be ahead on upgrade here for a moment. If he hits a big 2-2 timing and he pulls SCVs and he has medivacs with it, he might be able to maybe kill the army of CranK, but this looks really hard right now, as CranK, he already has a first Colossi, is getting a second right now.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense, actually. Because CranK, of course, will know the playstyle of Sting quite well, and we've actually seen Sting a couple of times already where, I don't want to say we're used to it, but we have seen before where he falls a bit behind in the game and he goes, well, now's the time to pull the workers. And he actually comes out with victories when he does stuff like that. So CranK, playing it extra careful, knows he wants to get the army needed to potentially fend off an all-in here. And the Colossus might get taken out here in the middle of the map. It is completely stranded with nowhere to go. It does indeed go down. First blood to Sting in this engagement, but the rest of the army is doing quite well indeed. The factory spotting that no third is there. He's going to try and send 2 medevacs into the main now, but there aren't that many units left.
And that's what's huge losses here by Sting. He's going to drop in the main, but lots of Zealots are going to have something to say about this. And CranK played like he was really scared of an attack here. I mean, he started 2-2. He's been going for Colossi, but he never started charge or blink. So he's going to be behind on this tech. He finally starts a third base. He's getting the Templar Archives, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see charge being researched here soon as he has enough gas for it.
Yeah, we need to start making use of that Twilight Council. I completely agree. 2-2 is about finished. He might attempt to poke in a little bit. He probably doesn't want to commit without those upgrades. He's got Templar Archives halfway down as well, so we should see some Storms a little bit later on. Very, very useful, of course, against the Biocomposition. Sting, in the meantime, he's got 2-2 complete, but he hasn't started his 3-3 just yet.
And a second starport goes down here for Sting, so he might actually choose to take a third here, try to take a lot of Vikings out. It seems less likely that he will go for a big timing with Vikings to... Oh, we have a big drop in the main!
Oh, and here we go. A lot of 3 medevacs with this composition, but a Colossus is being pulled back to defend here, and it's doing a lot of damage from the back. Mainly Marauders left, though, and he needs to be careful. A second Colossus joins the fray, and they just kill the units before they get out. Photon Overcharge, of course, able to pick apart the medevacs, but that boost allowing them to get out without suffering too many losses. Really nicely held there by CranK.
These medevacs left every man behind. They're coming back home empty-handed. And Sting is going to start a third command center. No upgrades for 3-3 just yet. Okay, finally started the level 3 infantry weapons, but he's very short on minerals right now. He cannot even use his second... He's not even using a single starport to make Vikings. He has no money. He needs to buy himself enough time to build back up his economy, take a third. But the thing is, he's going to be able to make enough Vikings, but he's going to have to deal with Storm, and he has no Ghost Academy. We have Storm on the way for CranK.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for him economically indeed. I mean, he's at 59 workers to 60, and technically with mules that potentially puts him on a higher economy, but the problem is that he's not actually mining from a third base, so some of those workers are waiting to be transferred, and as a result, CranK's economy and his income at the moment is just nice and dandy. He's completely happy with where he is. Storm is, I believe, complete now for him as well, so he's just going to be waiting for some energy on High Templar, and he could potentially be the one to move across the map now and try and inflict some serious hurt.
And CranK has got Storm now, but he still didn't start charge or blink. This is so surprising. It can only be a mistake. At this point in the game, you're getting enough Zealots. I mean, how many Zealots does he have? He has 24 Zealots. They are just that much stronger with charge, and now he doesn't have charge. Maybe he just wants them to tank in front of those Colossi, those Templars, and those Stalkers, but seriously, charge for the price it is at this point in the game will be so useful, so he's gonna have to get it sooner or later.
And he needs to get more gas as well. He's got 2-2, trying to get up 3-3 potentially. He's been sinking all of his gas into units at the moment, and that really he really needs to get that charge upgrade as well, like you mentioned.
Sting's getting the Ghost Academy here. He is 3-3 about to finish. Do you think he's gonna try to hit a timing before he has Ghost, or just try to chill and wait until he can catch back up in supply to CranK?
It's going to be difficult without those upgrades, but it feels like he might. He's just warped in another round of Zealots at the third, and you're right, this can only be a mistake, not getting that charge upgrade. The High Templar have a decent amount of energy, though, now, and he has a large number of Storms available, I think, at least 4, maybe more. So if he gets a good engagement here against Sting, who is also moving out across the map because 3-3 is about to finish, both sides going to try and move out with the timing here.
CranK actually has 12 High Templars right now. And we have not a single Ghost made by Sting just yet. Sting is going to press forward his pull SCVs. He's 3-3.
Oh, good initial Storm there. Some SCVs with this army as well. So Sting meaning business, and CranK, seeing the SCVs, just pulls back into his natural. That choke point is going to be so difficult for Sting to attack into. So he's
actually, it's not 3-3. 3-3 is going to finish now in 5 seconds. So a bit of an early engagement here, and oversteaming as well. He is finally 3-3. The Vikings trying to pick off the Colossi. They do get it.
And look at the, I mean, the medevacs have a lot of energy, but look at the hit points here in the army of Sting. These units are so low, about half of them in the red right now. Very, very difficult position for him to try and just start an engagement, and he needs to regroup and heal up his units.
Yeah, and we have a Zealot counterattack here with a couple Zealots slicing up some Marauders and Marines. They're going to head into the third here, try to weaken the economy of Sting even more. He's down to 48 SCVs to 63 probes, so CranK is doing pretty well economically. I wouldn't be surprised if he throws down a third here, as his main is mined out and his third is overly saturated. But if CranK can identify that he has Templars and there is not many ghosts against him, and by not many I mean 0 right now, he could just attack and end this game here. He's been scouting with hallucinated phoenixes, but he doesn't realize that there is no ghosts.
And he's got 1 minute until charge completes as well, Todd. He finally got around to sorting out those upgrades. Charge, as well as +3 attack and +3 armor, are now on the way for CranK, and that's going to make his army very, very fearsome indeed. Still a lot of Zealots with this composition. These High Templars, some of them are actually on completely full energy, so the storms that this army can potentially provide are going to be devastating in the face of Sting.
And Sting is going to have to play very defensively here. He's going to have to dodge storms. We have 3 Templars, full energy, pretty much with the army of CranK moving around the map right now. CranK is very hesitant right now. He does not want to overcommit. He's not sure whether or not there is Ghost. He cannot really scout.
Yeah, there are now a few, but Mobius Reactor only just started researching the first 3 Ghosts pop by, so he's significantly later than the High Templar here.
And CranK is going to go for the second robo here. He wants to transition into a lot of Colossi, and that's the right decision here by him. He's going to spread out a couple Templars. We might see some storms here in a second.
Oh, and a couple of preemptive storms. Oh, very, very nice there. Picking off a couple of High Templar early on in the engagement. Wow, a few more as well, and that one definitely had enough energy for another storm. So nice moves there from Sting, but CranK is currently up at 30 supply above his opponent. The worker count is 64 to 52, by the way, in favor of CranK. Workers killed so far this game, 43. Really, really good harassment there throughout this game by our Protoss player.
Yeah, and CranK right now is on 126 army supply. 3-3 is about to complete. He's already got the 3 attack. He's waiting for the 3 armor. He has Colossi on the way, so he might end up waiting for those Colossi to attack, not to commit too much and potentially lose his Templars before he can give the killing blow to his opponent.
And the 4th base coming down, sorry, the 5th base rather, in the bottom right-hand corner for CranK now as well. We have personal cloaking coming out from Sting here. Ship weapons level 1 as well, in case we see a whole bunch of Colossus production, which we do out of that double robo. Now, Todd, do you think that maybe CranK missed a potential opportunity for a push here? Because Sting is he's getting a decent number of ghosts out now. He's also getting the Vikings. It feels like he's a little bit more prepared now than he was before.
Yeah, he definitely. The thing is, he's getting Colossi, and there is not that many Vikings. Oh, actually, no. There is quite a lot. There is 12 Vikings, but if you have 4 Colossi with 3-3 against Vikings, only 1-0-0-0, it's obviously going to be good for the Colossi, because they will not take all that much damage, and they will deal a lot of damage to your opponent's army. So it's all going to be about positioning. I do think that CranK could have ended the game, but you know, it's always so much easier when you're observing to see the mistakes. When you're playing, it's very hard to evaluate where you're at, and I totally understand. It's happened to me before, you know.
Yeah, it's not. You have incomplete information, of course, because you don't see everything on the map, and instead of in a position where CranK could have pushed and said, wait, he can actually end the game here if he pushes. To him, it's more of a calculated risk, and it's a risk that he decided on this occasion not to take.
And a couple of Zealots in the top left-hand corner here were hidden, ready to go for a ninja run by, but they are going to be caught and killed. Oh, we have a War Prism headed for the main with 4 Zealots in it. If he could snipe the Ghost Academy behind the Natural, or at least some key buildings, say some add-ons like the Reactor and the Starport, it could be very important. But the eBay, sniping the eBay is not going to be important here because it's already done its work.
Oh, and cancelling that warp in the face of seeing those bio units in the main base as well. Instead, just going to be preserving that War Prism in the bottom left-hand corner of the map so that he can live to fight another day. Preemptive Storm going down now because Sting is trying to move out across the southern portion of the map here. He's at 187 supply versus the 193 for Sting. Sting still only on 50 workers, and 3 Dark Templar are over at the 3rd base. There is a turret there, but he could walk in, wipe the turret out. That's a lot of
And Sting can
SCVs.
actually see them right now, but he's not reacting. That's so weird. They're just hanging there, like looking at the SCVs. We can kill you, but we won't just yet. They decide to finally step in. They're gonna attack the turret. No repair. And
Orbital. Oh, the orbital is so low. It's at 140-80. Oh, he's being repaired now by the SCVs.
He even lifted.
Just about kills that. very, very close there. Good reaction from Sting. I know he saw them initially and didn't kill them, but once the action actually started, really, really good reaction time.
Imagine if he had clinked in the first place, he might have been able to get the orbital command as Sting was most likely looking somewhere else. In the meantime, more Zealots will be warped in the top left-hand side. More DTs, 5 DTs! Sting might see them with his Vikings. I don't think he saw them, otherwise he will be chasing them right now, trying to scan and kill them. 5 DTs for 1 scan, definitely a good pickup if you could make it happen. But those DTs, I think CranK is convinced that his command center will be on low hit points, but it's not. It's been fully repaired here and he should not be able to do too much damage to it.
He sees the SCVs transferring and that should really trigger him to... I would have maybe split the DTs up and go to different bases with this, because you're right, like 1 scan can potentially do it. He's also going to be doing some multi-prong harassment here. He's got the Warp Prism coming back in the bottom left-hand corner, and he is going to be unloading a bunch of Zealots and possibly warping some more in as well. Is he going to do that? Yes, he is. So a lot of units in the main base now. CranK is doing... Oh, very nice pick-off by the Vikings there, so only these Zealots left to deal with, and Sting can't move out on the map. A lot of harassment going on.
And CranK, he's being very patient right now. He's playing Hazuop style. He's waiting, he's sending units everywhere, trying to out-multitask his opponent. He's made a lot of gates. Look at the amount of gates he has by his natural. He has so many gates with the 1 Arthur's pylon in the middle. Should be pretty safe for the most part, since Sting cannot really move out without engaging against the army of CranK. And CranK is just going to go for full upgrades. With all of these gates, he can resupply very easily. He's getting the shields upgrade level 2 right now. Whereas Sting, he's actually got a lot of ghosts. The army value right now, 9,600 for Sting.
There's a third base, only 1 SCV repairing, and it's on low hit points, 200. Once again, Sting will react again in time. But I think CranK is getting to a point in the game, Todd, where he's recognizing that, hang on a second, when I do these multi-prongs harassment, it's actually possible to get some damage done as the second Warp Prism comes in, but we have a big engagement here at the front.
And CranK, yeah, he's about to engage into this army, but he does not want to get in the entire army. EMP is finally going to go for it. The EMPs are going to be very important, Drossar.
They are indeed. The Vikings getting in position against Colossi as well, doing a lot of splash damage. The Nexus will go down. EMP storms all over the place, but it looks like the EMPs are very, very good. The Cloaked Ghost doing a lot of damage here, and CranK plummeting in supply. Sting may be able to break through with this push.
The thing is, CranK can remax behind this. He has a lot of money. He's going to warp 18 Zealots for the moment. He has a Templar in position on his 3rd base. This might get sniped. He has a 4th base as well, but only 1 Templar left, and with only 8 points, he's going to get sniped as well. Sting right now maybe coming back in this game.
This is very, very close indeed. That High Templar, is it going to get sniped off? Yes! Feedback! Oh dear. And now the units, yes, they're streaming in from CranK, but they're basically streaming in single file right now. And the pylon getting taken out with so many units about to warp in as well. CranK is in a little bit of a difficult position, and this space at the bottom right. Oh my god, that's a lot of Zealots, dude.
Round 2 is going to send some Zealots in, but by themselves they don't do all that much. They will be falling down as the Medivacs keep on healing those units. CranK, he wasn't patient enough here at the end. He had to wait a little bit more. He needed more warpings. He needed to spend all of his money before fighting again, but he wanted to save this base, and this might end up costing him the game here. He has a couple of Templars at the 12 o'clock position, always full energy, and he's not using them.
He warped them in a while ago, and I think the engagement started, and they basically got forgotten. And this base in the bottom right is now looking like it's probably going to go down. More units are getting sent in from CranK.
Photon Overcharge will be used, but I mean the Nexus is so low hit points that he should get taken out momentarily. CranK down to 67 supply, 28 army supply to 83 of Sting. Sting, I think he's done it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his supply is almost double at the moment. Sting really turned this around. I think CranK was doing really, really well into the mid-game here. He had got his upgrades, I think, before Sting. He certainly had a decent number of Colossi out, and there was a point in the game where he could have pushed out and done a lot of damage. Very, very difficult to judge that kind of point. But then, while doing all these multi-prong harassments, Sting went, well, I'm just going to absolutely bulldoze your front, see what you come up with, and his EMPs were fantastic.
Oh, the idle Templars finally joining in the fight, and we have a couple ghosts left, but they are very low on energy. They can only use snipe, no EMPs. He's gonna send them in. Couple of Vikings trying to snipe on his Colossi here.
Oh, and the Nexus, he could have picked that off, actually. It's at 43 hit points, so one more hit from those Marauders would have taken it out. He's going to turn around and attempt to engage anyway, and we now have those idle Templars. A couple... Oh, it looks like they're going to become Archons very early on. A Storm does go down, but is it going to be enough? A second Archon and third trying to morph in, but the Medivacs are just constantly healing these units. Not enough.
And GG.